And I guess one of the reasons why I love the Bible is because as we're speaking here, God has used imperfect people to give us valuable lessons, right? So, one of the examples of people who knew how to handle and deal with offense would be David. I love David so much. Why? He messed up so many times, but he knew that his salvation was not outside God but inside God. And so I look back to David, even when it comes to dealing with offense. In David's life, he was anointed. First of all, his anointing, right? Samuel comes to his house, asks his father to see all his sons, so that the next king of Israel may be chosen from among them. What does Samuel do? He gets his fine older sons and brings them, and God is like, none of these people. People look on the outside, I look at the heart. So his father had ignored him from even being amongst the people being chosen. He had forgotten about him. He comes, he's anointed, then that's about it, right? Then he goes to Saul, and Saul loves him, right? He kills the giant, plays music for Saul. Saul loves him. Saul invites him to work in the palace as a music player. He comes, he befriends, man, allow me. He befriends Jonathan, Saul's son. Then all of a sudden, so they come back from a battle, and the women, banange. If you want to know if someone is insecure, they really care about what people think. So the women sing that Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands, and that does not pose well for the king. So Saul starts trying to literally pin David up on a wall by throwing his javelin at David. Now, David runs away, hides in caves, then God brings... Alright, so David had the opportunity to kill Saul twice, right? Whilst he was running away from Saul. And these were opportunities God gave him. But he did not take them. Each time he would say, I cannot stretch my hand against the Lord's anointed. Now, that does not mean David was oblivious to the fact that Saul wanted to kill him, right? He was not being stupid, right? It was not a false reason. Yeah, no. But he recognized that because Saul was chosen by God, God will deal with him. All he has to do is follow what God has said. Yeah? So even us in our lives, when someone offends us, especially if they are in authority over us and you cannot touch them, all we are supposed to do is do our part, obey them, do as we are told, and allow God to be the judge over them.
Yeah, to add to what he said, most of our points are coming from John Bevere and his teaching. So you can go and read his books and watch his videos titled The Bait of Satan. They're really helpful. They help you understand. Probably they'll do a better job than us. But one of the things he says, John Bevere says, is you should respect and honor the position, not their behavior. When you have that in your mind, like David and like Joseph, who I'll talk about later, I think it will help with honoring even in unfair treatment, which is a whole other thing. But basically, like Jonathan said, that Peter said, that Jesus said, offense is bound to come, and even in First Peter, I think.
You think?
I'm trying to remember which chapter it is.
We love you, by the way. We love you. Don't worry, you can paraphrase.
It's trying to be funny. Now I've even forgotten what I was trying to say, so I need it now. Yeah, basically those trials, be unfair treatment, it's there to help us. It's actually there to help us create a test that if we pass, it's for our benefit, we grow as Christians. But if we fail, well, it's the opposite. So we should, obviously no one's going to be smiling when they see trials coming, when they see themselves being unfairly treated. But if you think of it as, you know what, this is actually going to be something that's going to help me grow, and you ask God for help during such times, such situations, it's actually going to be for your betterment. Like David, he said, when the thing he just talked about, Saul, he said, basically in paraphrase as well, how dare you try to touch the Lord's anointed, the one the Lord has anointed to be king of Israel. You see, he's honoring the position that King Saul is in. And when you do that, then you start to find out, regardless of how they're behaving, because God has chosen this person to be head over the country, the head over me. And obviously, if you're wise enough to know that God can't make mistakes, and God is wiser than you, and you can't start questioning God's judgment, you can't be like, God, but now, do you see this guy that you've put here?
And God isn't shocked when he's choosing people.
I'm so sorry about these technical difficulties.
Okay.
The camera does some things, it keeps shutting off after some time, and within that time that it shut off, I forgot what I was saying. So I know I was talking about Saul.
Okay, David and
I
Saul.
was talking about David and Saul, and respecting and honoring their position, not their behavior, so that even when they're doing stuff that you might question, you realize that you're honoring their position, not their behavior, which will help you maintain that kind of honor. And I think that's an attribute of many great men. I'll stop there. And also remembering God is the one who has put them there. You know what I'm saying? And then when it comes also to just appears, I feel like sometimes you can be a bit too judgmental, which will lead to offense. Like, how can this person do this, do that? But you don't know the full story. You don't know all that has happened. You don't know what they're going through. So, if we do not judge, let me not get into this right now. It's for later. Yes.
And what you said about honoring the position rather than the behavior helps with a lot of issues people have with offense, especially towards people in authority over them. It answers questions such as how do you keep from being offended with people older than you? Because when you understand that it's not behavior but position, then you can start to pray for them genuinely and ask God to help them change, because the position is God ordained. I think it's Romans chapter 12, where is it 12? Romans, where it talks about God appointing leaders. Every leader that exists today,
And is in power.
even Vladimir Putin,
Appointed by God.
is appointed by God. And our job as believers is not to be critical or judgmental of them, but to pray for them and to honor them. Because once you start being critical and judgmental, you start to honor their behavior rather than their position. And it is
Also remember that no one is perfect.
for sure.
No leader is perfect. But all the leaders that are there are ordained by God. So keep in mind, God knows what he's doing. Let me tell you a story.
Hallelujah.
A story. Joseph. He's a very good example. In fact, in my notes, I have written down Joseph should be our example on how to deal with offense. I don't think I have to go through the story of David. Sorry, Joseph, but I will. So it starts with his brothers throwing him into a pit. That's one reason to be offended, though he might have
Opened his mouth too much.
yeah, he might have brought it on himself, but still throwing him in a pit and selling him, that's kind of extreme. Then being a faithful servant to Potiphar. Now, since he honored Potiphar, now there's something John Bevere said that was very funny. He was more faithful to Potiphar than even his wife, because his wife tried to sleep with him, but Joseph refused to do that. Just think about that. And he was thrown in prison for being loyal. Another reason to be offended. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy has all the reasons to be offended and all that. And maybe if he had dishonored Potiphar, if he had just been mad and held that offense first of all from his brothers in his heart, who knows what might have happened. Probably wouldn't have gotten into that position with Potiphar. Wouldn't have been such a good servant, such a trusted servant by Potiphar. Would never have gotten thrown into jail, which would never become the prime minister of Egypt. Then even in jail, he still had to keep a good attitude and not be offended. I don't think after he got out, he said, now first find Potiphar's wife and Potiphar, and let's first execute them. You know what I'm saying? And even at the end of it all, when his brothers come, he tells them, what you meant for evil, God turned it for good. And I think that's a very positive and a very good outlook that you should have in life. That kind of realization that, hey, God is in control. No matter what these people are doing, God is in control. I think that's one of the ways to deal with it. Joseph is such a good example of how to deal with offense, because for sure it came, but you don't see stories where Joseph is like, slap my brothers, first line up like this, throw them in a deal, see how
And
it
he had
feels.
the advantage of being anonymous, because to them he was the prime minister. To him, those were his brothers. So for sure, he could have just said, let me first get a little even with them. Let me throw them in a pit real quick, just for some time, and then we get back this way. But no, he loved them. And even when Jacob died, their concern was that as soon as Jacob dies, now Joseph is going to deal evil to them for what they had done to him. But when he heard them say that this man had genuinely forgiven his brothers, he cried, because he said, do you guys really think that little of me? No. He promised them that they would have the best of the land of Goshen, right? So even us, no matter how much your siblings annoy you, don't throw them in a pit. Don't sell them off. Don't choose to cut them off from your life or hold on to offense for so long. Forgive them. In fact, Jesus gives us a prescription for how long we should hold on to anger for. He says, do not let the sun go down on your anger. So you have until about 6 in the evening to be annoyed with someone. Until then, when 6 comes, Jesus says, Munangi, let go of this anger. Because once you keep hold of it, Jesus says you're as good as a murderer. He says he who looks at his brother in anger is as good as a murderer. Because like Jed said earlier, it might not be that you kill the person now, but when you hold on to such emotions, they fester and it can lead to murder. So yeah. Now, I want to ask. Okay, yes. Offense is bad and it is terrible, right? But Peter says that we are supposed to understand that it is coming. Jesus said, please know that it is going to come. So why does it come? Like, why does offense come?
I'd say it comes because we live in a broken world. Yeah, so things are bound to go wrong. It also comes because hurting people hurt others. It happens because people are not always considerate, so they do not, or they don't always. They're not always thinking about what they say or what they do and how to make you feel. So I think as Christians, it's supposed to be the bigger man, but sometimes it's those small things, but then it can also be the big things like unfair treatment. That's why offense. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Think so.
But let me just tell you this. The Bible says that God is pleased when you patiently endure unfair and unjust treatment. And it is actually our calling to endure that unjust treatment, because the Bible tells us that Jesus went through these same things. So don't be surprised. He set an example for us. And what Jesus endured, we should also expect for ourselves. And it's not just there so that you can be like, okay, Jesus did this, so that means also now you have to do this. Those things for us as Christians, it comes for our, it's for our betterment. It comes to help us grow. If, like I said earlier, if you can navigate through those situations properly, it's to your benefit. It is to help you grow. Such situations in your life come to help you grow. Yeah.
So yes, I would like to echo what Jed said about offense coming so that we can grow. An example I could use would be like a tree. So a tree starts off its life as a seed, then it grows into a sapling or a seedling. I don't know trees, so I don't know. But during that time in its life, it's subjected to the same heat and cold as a full-grown tree, right?
Yeah.
And if the tree could talk, it would tell it could tell the farmer. Shout out Sunday. It would tell the farmer to move it from there. Like if the sun was too hot, please move me from here to a cooler place. If it's too cold, please move me to a warmer place. However, if the farmer listened to the seedling each time it asked, the tree would never grow. In fact, it would die because it doesn't have roots deep enough anywhere in order to get nourishment to grow. That's why trees, when they're planted, they're left to grow. No matter how cold it gets, no matter how hot it gets, the tree will grow, right? And when it does grow, it grows into a mighty tree that can support others, right? Like animals, birds, provide fruit if it's a fruit tree. And that's the same thing with us. Each time offense comes, it should be viewed as an opportunity to either grow or to stagnate. Whenever I have a personal example, really. When, like Jed said, we got this from John Bevere, and the first time we watched his videos on offense, I personally was going through a challenging season where this was very applicable to me. And so whilst everyone else was watching the videos, I was laughing half the time. And for me, it's because I find it quite hilarious how God can decide to use things that might not be for everyone at the time, but is specific to you. So during that time, I was going through something of the nature of offense, and I realized that I could either, one, continue to feel offended and it would affect how I was performing at work, at home, everywhere, how I would relate to the people here, the people away from here, my friends, my family. Or I could use it as an opportunity to grow, because truly what the person was saying was really the truth. It was to help me grow. So I decided in my heart, no, you know what, no matter how much you feel pain and annoyed and this is unfair, use this as an opportunity to grow. And I did, and as a result I got better at what I was doing, right? And so yes, it's a time, offense is a time for us to grow or to regress. Another example I have is the one from the Bible. I think all of us have heard of Jonah. Jonah, God sent him to Nineveh. He decided no and ran away, put people's lives in danger. They threw him overboard. A whale swallowed him. He prays, repents. 3 days later, he's spat out on the shore. He goes to Nineveh, preaches. Now, most of us in Sunday school, that is where we stop, right? He actually went and he preached, and people of Nineveh repented. Oh, happy day, right? But the reality is, this man, after preaching, and the people of Nineveh fasting, not even the animals ate, he went up far away, far enough away for what he thought would be the blast radius of God's wrath, and he sat there and he waited for God to destroy the people. Right after they had done exactly what God had required of them. And God grew him a plant pretty quickly, because plants don't just appear out of nowhere. He grew him a plant, he sat there in the shade, and in the same moment he also brought a caterpillar to come and eat that plant, so that the plant would be chopped down and die. So in that instance, Jonah, who felt so offended, said to God, why haven't you struck these people down? I knew this is what you were going to do. So we learned that Jonah actually didn't go to Nineveh, not because he was scared, but because he knew that God was going to forgive those people.
Wow.
Yeah, he knew God was going to forgive them, and he didn't want that. Why? Because I believe he felt like these people
deserved.
Exactly, they deserved. It's like if we said that Hitler, actually, just before he died, he gave his life to Jesus. Most of us would be like, but no, I think he should be in hell because he tortured people for fun. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's how we felt about the people of Nineveh. He felt like, these people, no,
They deserve
to die. But God had ordained that these people should be saved if they repented, and they did so. So, and right after that, you hear nothing about Jonah ever again, except when Jesus mentions him. Outside that, Jonah's story ends with him being annoyed with God. So I believe it's the same. Even us, when we choose to hold offense, despite the fact that God has been so gracious to us, I believe God says, well, now at this point, I don't think we can work together because we have opposing views on what forgiveness should look like. Yeah? Yes. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.